Yeah, I'm in my office. It's freaking cold outside. So I decided to do some testing. So this is about the key switch, which is part of rebuilding the car, which is part of the engine stand, which is part of everything. Yeah, I'm working on figuring out all the wiring for this stuff. But I realized I need some wire to play around with. So I had bought the 64 Galaxie engine wiring harness. And I've got all the plugs from the engine compartment in. I just cut all those off. And now I'm starting to pull wire, whatever wire I don't need. I might even be able to use the right colors. So that's where I'm at right now. Yeah, I took off all the insulation off the wires, but I found these interesting couplings inside here. I'm not sure where they went. I'd have to go through the wiring diagram, but it doesn't really matter. There's a cat. So I got plenty of wire to play around with. Yeah, so I cut one of these splices open. I'll show you the best I can. It's just a really hard plastic. And it looks like the wires are just wrapped around each other. I mean, this stuff is hard. I can't break it. I can cut it with a knife. Yeah, I got one more piece of wire that I found in this loom. This is a fusible link. It says, do not cut or splice. Somewhere it says resistor. Right there it says resistor. It's really flexible. And then down here is the wire I got. Again, if I need a piece, I just cut off what I need and just leave it until it ends up being nothing. Those are just scraps, a little bit longer and then longer. And the cat is fascinated. Watch this. Get it, kitty, get it. Okay, I got a key switch here that you saw me working on my engine stand. I'm working to figure it out, and then I'll figure out these other things. But as I was showing earlier, I got wire, so I'm going to put a piece of wire on about I don't know, 6 inches to a foot, and work this all out. Then I'll work this out, the solenoid, and then I'll work the regulator out. That is something I don't quite know how to test, and I'm having trouble finding information, but I'll figure it out. Yeah, again, this is just me figuring things out, but for anybody interested, so this is a page or the wiring diagram out of the 64 Galaxie V8. Now it shows all the wiring, and I'll just zoom in on the regulator and so on. But what it doesn't show is wire size for some reason. So as I was saying, I cut off all the plugs. This is an extra wiring harness. I bought this about, I don't know, a year ago. But if you look, again, I shoot this over days, but I was showing that resistor wire. So these are firewall plugs. So here's that resistor wire that I showed earlier. This right where my finger is, that pink one right where my fingernail is. So I'm not going to go into this too much, but And here's the fuse panel. Again, this is the same one that's on my car. And you can see someone put foil over these. Again, that doesn't matter. So eventually I'm going to be rewiring the car, and so these are the things that are fused, if you look through it, if you can see it. But there's some things that aren't fused. Like there's no fuse for the starter, there's no fuse for the, I don't think, for the lights, you know, the headlights and so on. So I would assume these are all, I don't know, are these all accessories? So I'm just kind of thinking this through. And then the other question I get is, there is no ground on this. So I guess the way a fuse panel works is nothing is grounded until it reaches its destination. In other words, all this is like a switch on your wall. These are a bunch of switches. Or switch fuses like you have in your panel. So the ground, so all that's coming in here is power. Then it goes to like your lights or whatever. And then when the light turns on, the ground is at the light, usually, I think, you know, to the frame. I'm just talking this through as I try to figure it out. I'm not an electrician, not a mechanic. It's interesting though. So I'm just going to keep adding information as it occurs to me. The other thing is with a wiring diagram, they don't always, it's not always clear. Here's the fuse panel here. Which wire is the feed wire? I mean, in other words, how is the power coming in? So it looks like, you see that line right there, that dot, and then there's one here. Looks like there's two. And then if you look inside here, well, I guess there's four. You see those metal plates in there? So power comes into these metal plates. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. So there must be 4 feed wires coming in here. In fact, we can see them. Wish I don't have any way to hold this phone here. This thing is top heavy and won't stay. But if we look close, you can see here's the feed wire coming in here, right there, somewhere down there. There's the one up there. So somehow these are all getting power. Again, if I go back to here, you can clearly see the wires that are coming into the fuses. But like, look at that one right there, the second one up. What is going on there? So eventually I'm going to figure all this out. And this is why I bought this, just because I didn't want to crawl into the car. I mean, this wasn't that much. I mean, you can get a wiring harness, a used wiring harness, pretty cheap. You don't need it to replace your harness. It just helps me to understand what the heck is going on. So anyway, I just thought, again, I'm just going to bring this stuff up as I find it. But one more time, there's like one, actually I see more. Again, I'm looking at these connections. Let's just look at this side here. So I flip this over. That's on where my hand is wiggling. There's one feed wire going into 1, 2, 3, 4 lugs, and one coming out. It's interesting. Wish I was well, I don't wish I was an electrician. It's just interesting. And also, the other thing I noticed is which are the big heavy wires that are bringing in? Like, again, I guess the heavy wires are the ones going to these metal strips. Like this black yellow. Or this red, that's going to, again, if I flip it over, it's right about, I don't know. But, you know, they just don't call that out very good. Well, let me see one more time. Black, green, I'm looking for a black green. Right here, black green. Yeah, like I said, that is going to there. So that's a feed. I bet if you probably follow it back somehow. I mean, how is that getting there? That's how I guess how this works. So you take the black green. Where did it come from? So I go across. How did that black green get there? I mean, it must have come from the battery, but where? Because it's not going back to the battery. Unless it's down here somewhere. Anyway, just talking out loud, maybe I'll cut all this out. But my understanding is that, well, if we started the battery, for instance, we got one going to the starter relay, and the main feed is going over to the regulator, and then somehow it goes to the fuse panel. And then from the fuse panel, like I say, it goes out and then it grounds at these certain list of items, and then it goes back to the battery. That's why there's no ground in here. So about a year ago, I knew this day was going to come. So I bought this tool. It's a crimper. And it's got 3 different sized jaws here, because I never liked the crimping tools I had. I'm looking at it right now, and I notice it's got a red, a blue, and a yellow dot. So again, these aren't marked very good. This one says 4 to 6, 2.6, 0.515. It's in millimeters. I don't use millimeters, but it looks like the red is for all these, the blue is for all those, and the yellow is for all these. So I'm going to put ends on these wires, and I guess I'm going to use the red crimper. And this is all a mystery to me. I mean, I've done wiring, but I always use cheapo stuff. I just wanted to try something that would crimp all the way around like I did on the battery cables. Okay, I know I keep saying this, but again, this is for pure entertainment and for me, because I'm figuring this stuff out. So I got a 12-volt battery supply or power supply that I bought years ago. I got a piece of the sheet metal from my engine stand. This is my ground. Here's my key switch. And I got some lights in between. And I got a voltmeter. So I really need some kind of, again, I'm in my office. And I have this extra table to work from because it's too damn cold outside. But right now I'm just playing with this key switch, and maybe I'll go get my camera stand, but for some reason this is dead. So you go testing things, I was thinking, man, something's wrong with this, but then I tested this and this is wrong. I mean, it's bad. Maybe I'll just show this for people that are interested. Again, if you know how to do all this stuff. But it's interesting. So I don't know if I already explained this. And I have trouble wrapping my head around this. But this is basically a light switch. I think I said that. So you power in. Let's see, power into the battery side. Well, I'll go over it better when I can show you. Yeah, this is the battery. This is coming from the battery. And then you got accessories, and to the coil. Or to, let's see, to the coil. I think this goes to one of these leads here. You know, I see these guys make these videos and it's all organized. It's on a pegboard. It's really hard to do this on a desk. To show it. Okay, I'm not an electrician. I'm an old retired guy. But I need to figure out this wiring. I'm repeating myself, I know that. But I'm just going to show you what I got going on here as I'm figuring it out. I got a DC power supply. I'm going to turn that on. I don't know if you can see it. It says 12.7 volts. I got a voltmeter that I might use and I might not. This is why I like being in my shop. I don't have enough room here. I got these Waco connectors, size 20 to 12 or 18 to 12, which are these things right here, which are really nice because you can see them. I'm using them all over the place. You just slip a wire in. Let me see. This isn't it, but you slip a wire in, close it, you got it. It's freaking strong. And then when you don't need it, you can just take it out. So this is good for screwing around with stuff like this. And those are really cheap on Amazon. I mean, they hardly cost anything. There's like 100 of them in here. And you get them for different size wire. So I got a key switch. I got a key switch here. So, you know, you have your, like a regular car, you have your, you slide your key in, and you get your accessories, your back, and you have your run, they call it, or we'll call it run and start. Maybe I'm wrong on the terms, but anyway. So all this mess here. So I have 3 bulbs. 1, 2, 3. One of them is accessories. One of them is, let me look at the back of this. So we got accessories, ignition, battery, and this is run. So we'll just do it first. And again, I don't know if I said it, this is my ground. So I have power coming from my power supply to my ground, and the other end is going to battery. The other thing I like about these Waco is that they don't accidentally ground out. So when I pick the key up, and by the way, all these wires and these bulbs, I got them out of a wiring harness. So really this is just step one. Now that I figured this out, I'll be going on to this. It might be another video, but anyway, so I wish this was marked. Maybe it is. I can see an S. There's an S and an I. So start, ignition. So I think anyway, that's another video, I think. But again, I need to test all these things. I'm not smart enough to, maybe it's not smart enough. I just can't comprehend it easily. So again, what we have is we have bulbs. I got one end of the bulb going to, again I have to read it because I can't remember nothing. Accessories, ignition, and run. And then the battery. The battery being the power supply. Hope that makes sense. So here's the key out. I'm going to turn to the left. You just got I don't know if you can see these bulbs, but let's see if it works. So maybe you can see that too. Right now it says 12.7. That's how much power I'm putting in there. I can adjust this. But I want to just keep it right at about 13, 12. And also, there's an amp meter here. So we're going to turn it, accessories, and we'll see if anything changes here, and we'll see if the bulb lights. And the bulb means any accessories, as I was talking about this, or as I have wired in. Also, nothing here is fused, and we'll talk about that. So, accessories, the bulb goes on. I'm using 2.46, a quarter of a amp. Key out again. I'm going to turn to the right again. Well, this didn't really come with a diagram. I had to kind of figure it out. I mean, it says on the back, but so now I'm going to turn to the right. So now the accessories. I'll draw this on a whiteboard later, because I can't remember. So let's see. We got two bulbs on. We got the one going to the accessories. We got another one going to the ignition. Okay, I got it now. So the ignition meaning coil. Okay. So we turn it. I'm just going to make this just so it's not too complicated. Taking it out, putting it back in. Accessories, key out, key in, ignition. So this bulb here is going to represent the starter. So I'm going to turn it to the far right, and we'll see what happens with these other lights. So what's going on here is when we turn it to the right, that's the starter, that's the coil. So for momentarily, the accessories turn off, turn to the right. Coil, starter's on, starter's cranking, and power to the coil. Because it won't do any good to have the starter on if the coil's not hot. Now, again, I don't know much about this stuff, but I like figuring things out. What I find interesting here is, let me just connect some of this stuff. Hang on a second, I'm gonna disconnect. I want to say one more thing. These bulbs have 2 wires. This kind of bulb has 1 wire. The ground is when you plug it into your socket. There's a little metal tab on there. Well, that grounds to the body, I guess. I don't have the other part of this. Yeah, I just thought of one more thing. How many amps is being drawn when 2 bulbs go on? I think it was 1/4. Let's see if 1/2 is drawn. So I'm going to all the way to run. If you can see that, I'll tell you what it says if you can't. That's drawing 4.75. So each one of these bulbs is only 1/4 of an amp. 2 of them is 1/2 an amp. So we're just experimenting. I'm going to stop. I got a blinker here. And I just want to show you. I want to show you something that I can't wrap my head around it. Okay, now we're just going to now we're just going to play around for a second. So now I got this bulb with the external ground. So I'm going to take the, let's just see if it works. I haven't even tested it. Red. So if I touch the ground, I believe it should light. Okay, that's the external ground. Or if I touch the body, again, this is the body or the firewall, whatever you want to call it. So that works. Let's try, I didn't look at that. Let me look at that. I'm just curious, this is a different bulb. I want to see how many amps this one drives. About the same, 2.36. Okay, now I got a blinker here. So here I'm just going to go, one is ground, one is power. See if we can hear it, and we'll see if we can see how many amps it's drawing. See if it works. When it's working, it's drawing 3.7 amps. Okay, what blows my mind about this is just because if I put a light bulb in between, let me explain this. I'm just going to do this live. I'm going to pull one of these light bulbs out. What blows my mind about electricity is again, this is only 12 volt, I can touch anything. So I got ground and power. Just because I have this little thing here, this little amp draw, it works. But if I just get rid of that and I touch this, this is what I guess they call a short to ground. Watch that, or listen. It hit the circuit breaker blue. It really blows my mind. As long as you have something with resistance in the way, it won't blow. But if I just get rid of that little something, it shorts out. So about this whiteboard. So what we got going here is negative. So every one of these has a ground. So the ground going here. There's a ground going here. You follow that? So ground, ground, ground. This does not have a ground because this is a switch. So we're running the battery to the battery terminal on the back. So each one of these has a little terminal. So right now that's what we have. Ignore those lights. So off. Let me just kind of run this. This is not connected yet. That means the switch is not closed. And the run is not closed yet. And I guess we have accessories also. Again, with one running to the ground. I drew this wrong. Ignition is running to the coil. It's kind of complicated, isn't it? And the accessories is running to here. That's really complicated. So one more time. Again, this is just like a light switch. Accessories is on. So all that did is it closes the switch. This is the ground. G, G, G. G. So we close the switch. That was 1. Turn it to the right. Now we have accessories. When we turn it to run, the accessories went on and the coil was closed. That's 2. I guess this is a 1 and a 2. Turn it to 3. Again, its accessories is this light bulb. That one. Turn it to run. Accessories goes out. And coil or ignition and starter go on. That's the starter. So position 3, that closed and that closed. So this is really 3 and 3. That's not a very good drawing. Maybe I'll fix it. I never used one of these before. Let's see if we can fix that drawing. Not sure how you clean this. This is battery, negative, plus. Ground. Our body, we'll call it the body. So let's see, accessories. Ignition, they call it. It's really the coil and the starter. Turn the key to the left. I don't know if I need to draw ground, but I will. Ground, ground, ground. We also have a hot, hot, and hot. So we turn the key to the left. Accessories went on. Turn the key to the right, pass. Turn the key to the right, past. Being able to pull the key out. This also goes on. So there's a 2 and a 2. Turn the key one more time. The starter went on, and the coil. So that's really a 3 and a 3. I find that interesting. But again, nothing in. There's no fuses. The starter doesn't have a fuse. Again, that's later. But right now, there's nothing fused. If you wanted to have a fuse, it'd be in between. So I went to Kmart. This thing cost $10. This cost, I don't know, $10 off Amazon about 6 months ago. I collect stuff for rainy days. It's really cold outside, so I'm doing this right now. Better turn the key off or drain the battery. This is why your battery goes dead, because right now, in the run position, I'm draining a 1/2 amp every second. This is a handy thing, a power supply. This is, by the way, it's called Dr. Meter DC power supply. What I like about it is you can do different voltages. I can turn it way down. I'm down to 1, 2. This doesn't do anything because that is showing your draw of your amperage. It's like an amp meter. It's cool. And then there's a, this is an oscilloscope that I'm not using right now. This is a like pause button, power still on. And this is the off button. And I didn't use the voltmeter.